That's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with a capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is also a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. Fascinating story. Do you think that Stephen Miller is a world-class hater? I do. I mean, it's just my personal opinion, but I would argue that there's some evidence for this. And so if somebody said that, you know, if a news reporter were to say that Stephen Miller was a world-class hater, isn't that just telling the truth? I mean, you know, it's not like there haven't been similar things being said by people in the Trump administration. So here, this is what Terry Moran posted over on I guess it was on X. He said, the thing about Stephen Miller is not that he's the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with a capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is also a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. So ABC News comes out and says, this violates our standards and we're suspending this guy. Congressman Joe Walsh says, this is utter BS, ABC News. You're the free press. You don't do what the authoritarian in the White House tells you to do. Thank you, Terry Moran, for having the courage to speak the truth. Mehdi Hassan says, snowflakes, pretend speech warriors, gutting journalists suspended and calling for their firing, hypocrites. Here are some posts from people just responding. What Moran reported was demonstrable fact, indisputable fact, yet they suspended him. This is the advantage that Trump and his ilk have. They are so beyond the moral pale, so beyond normality, that it's considered impolite, impolitic, or intemperate to describe them as they actually are. Another person writes, MAGA, I thought you were all defending free speech in the First Amendment. Why are you so upset about Terry Moran's comments? Stop being such snowflakes. Stop looking for safe spaces and man up. And then another person notes, and I think this is the killer one, Stephen Miller calls sitting U.S. judges, quote, crazy communist judges, end quote, says that the Democratic Party's philosophy is, quote, for foreigners, everything, for Americans, nothing, end quote. But these unhinged opinions are treated as not just fine, but welcomed by Trump. In other words, Miller himself has said worse than what Terry Moran said.